Baba, great to have you on the show. Certainly, we've passed the 27,000 mark today, Baba. So it looks like market sentiment continues to be quite bullish. And I must say, versus the economic sentiment right now, we had our president saying today that they're revising down their GDP forecast. The market sentiment doesn't seem to be affected by this at all.
Yeah, Uche, good day to you. The market is on the upbeat. We've seen a consistent back-to-back, week-in, week-out movement in the market cap. We've seen a new year high of about 8.7 trillion. We equally seen the index of well over 27,000. I think that these are very phenomenal numbers we're seeing on the platform of the exchange. I think we intend to see more of these figures as we go down probably the incoming weeks.
Well, Baba, certainly it looks like the breweries and the construction companies topped the gainers list today. But you did mention to me earlier that a lot of rallying we're seeing in the Tier 2 banking space. Certainly you feel driven by Diamond Bank's Q3 results, which were released yesterday.
Yeah, Uche, only yesterday we saw the Q3 result of Diamond Bank released to the markets. That result, by all stroke of imagination, actually beats market expectation beyond reasonable doubt. The gross earning moving from about 72 billion to 110 billion. And then we're seeing equally PAT moving from a loss of about 6.1 billion to well over 18 billion naira. That is an incredible result by our standard. And of course, we all know that Diamond is a Tier 2 bank. And we've seen rallied on the other Tier 2 banks like FCMB, Fidelity Bank, riding on the strength of the results and the performance of Diamond Bank, preparation to when they're going to release their result. And the market is quite expectant that these results are going to be quite fantastic and phenomenal. Uche.
Well, what's your take on the Tier 1 banks then today? I mean, how did they perform? Certainly the Tier 2 seem to perform quite well, but what's the picture with the Tier 1?
Yeah, for the Tier 1 banks, First Bank actually dipped down, closing at about 16.51. I guess we saw a lot of profit taker coming to the market. This is a stock that was year to date well over 9 naira, below 9 naira. It's doing 16.51. I think that's a very remarkable performance. And the market is quite expectant that First Bank is one of the banks that will post a PAT of about 100 billion, for the full year result of 2012. I think that, most of the Tier 1 banks are actually up there, if you ask me. But the Tier 2 banks still have mileage to cover. And we're going to see Skybank, FCMB, Fidelity Bank doing some reasonable and substantial rally. But for the Tier 1 banks, I think that they're just trading a little flat. GTB trading a bit of flat, Zenith Bank trading a bit of flat, as well as First Bank. But I think the Tier 2 banks are banks to watch as we go down the following week.
Well, Baba, I'd like to quickly check in. Roughly a week since we saw those 9 additional stocks are added to the market-making stocks. How are they performing so far? Certainly there's a lot of hype right now around those market-making stocks. What's the picture there?
Yeah, the picture is quite bright. Most of the 9 additional market-making stocks that were added to the basket sometime last week, couple of weeks, are actually doing very good and fantastic. We're seeing, quite before now, insurance stocks actually leading the pack of stocks that are moving up. Don't forget the fact that Custodian and Allies as well as Heiko were 2 of the stocks that actually were added to the basket. They are actually hitting the rooftop. They have actually closed maximum for the past 3-4 trading days. First Bank, one of the market-making stocks, is actually coasting high too. I think all the market-making stocks are actually looking good, and given the fact that they have very strong fundamentals, and we are actually expected that the Q3 result that will be released very soon will actually drive them to a different level, as we go down the line. Uche.
Well, Baba, looking forward, what's your outlook for the market, especially now that we have a lot of these news coming out? Budget 2013, the president says he's revising GDP forecasts downwards. We're also talking about inflation going up with, of course, the flooding going on around Nigeria. How will this impact the market going forward, especially some of those agro business stocks?
On the budget front, I think that if you look at the budget that was just the proposal, as it were, it looks pretty good. The fact that the government has been able to step down recurrent expenditure, in favor of capital expenditure. I think that's quite a milestone, welcome development. But beyond that, we tend to think that we should be able to achieve a very remarkable, implementation of the budget moving forward. I think that if this budget is implemented to the latter, we tend to see a very remarkable leap in the economic indicators on upfront. And of course, that will trickle down to the markets very, very substantially, And given the fact that the SWV, fund was only inaugurated not too long ago, and it's expected that the excess crude oil, funds will actually be channeled into this fund for, stabilization purposes, for infrastructural purposes, as well as, other use. I think that, to my mind, if you ask me, a lower, benchmark on the crude oil will probably make more sense than inching it to well over 75 naira. But I think that it's a good beginning, and we're moving forward on that. Now, on the flood aspect, I think that it's a very worrying development. Good enough that the government is beginning to, put some incentive and palliative in place to the affected areas and all that. But the most disturbing aspect to my mind is the fact that the agricultural businesses will be adversely affected. Don't forget the fact that not too long ago, the government has actually channeled a lot of funds into, transformation of the agricultural sector. I think that we may begin to witness some, low in that particular sector, Uche.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Baba, for giving us your take there. Certainly, we'll keep watching the markets even as it hits that 27,000 mark. Baba Ibrahim, MD at Mainstreet Bank.